I want you to think about the last time you bought something big, a car, a house, anything with a serious price tag. Did you trust the salesperson's description of it, or did you ask your own questions? Most people, when they're buying a business, do something they would never do in any major purchase. They take the broker's summary, they review the numbers the broker provided, and they ask the questions the broker expects them to ask. And they never realize there are 5 other questions sitting right underneath the surface, questions the broker is not legally required to answer completely. Questions the buyers pretty much never think to ask, and questions that would change the entire deal if they did ask them. And today, I'm going to give you all 5 of them. And I'm going to tell you exactly why each one of the questions makes a broker feel uncomfortable, because that discomfort is your signal that you're getting close to something real. I'm Jason Schmidt. I'm a CPA. My job in this series is to give you the questions, the frameworks, and the financial tools that protect your money when you're buying a business for under $500,000. In the last 2 videos, we cover what brokers aren't required to disclose upfront and how SDE gets manipulated to inflate a valuation. Today, we get tactical. These are the 5 questions that change the dynamics of a deal conversation. Before I give you the questions, I want you to understand one thing about how a broker operates. A broker represents the seller, okay? They are paid a commission, typically 8 to 12%, when the deal closes. There's nothing unethical about it. There's not anything dishonest. It's just how the system works. But it means that every piece of information a broker volunteers to you is information they decided it won't hurt the deal. But what they don't volunteer is where the real education begins. Okay? These 5 questions are designed to get you information the broker has not volunteered. They're polite, they're professional, and in a way that will tell you immediately whether your deal is a clean one or maybe has a problem. Question number 1. Can I see 3 years of business tax returns directly from the seller and not a broker's financial summary? Here's why that question matters and why it creates discomfort. A broker's financial summary is a marketing document. It is prepared to present the business in the best light possible, right? Tax returns are filed under penalty of perjury. They tell a different story, and that story is the real one. When you ask for tax returns and the broker hesitates, gives you summaries instead, or tells you the seller isn't comfortable sharing them, that hesitation is data. Clean deals have clean tax returns and sellers who will share them. Deals with inflated SDE calculations and creative add backs have sellers who are slow to produce 3 years of tax return filings. Your follow-up, if you get pushback, is, I understand that. I can have my CPA review them under a confidentiality agreement if the seller prefers that. That often removes the seller's most common objection. If they still won't share them with them, you now know something important about the deal. Question 2. What is the seller's specific reason for selling? And may I speak with the seller directly to hear them say it? The broker will give you a polished answer. Maybe it's retirement, health reasons, wants to spend more time with the family, moving to other opportunities. Sometimes those are completely true. Sometimes they're a soft landing for a harder truth, like a lease won't renew, a neighborhood that is changing, equipment at the end of its useful life, a key employee who has already left, or maybe a competitor who just opened up down the street. You will not always get the full answer through the broker. That's why the second part of this question matters, asking to directly speak to the seller. A legitimate seller with a clean deal will almost always agree to a direct conversation. A seller who has something to hide will often route all communication through the broker. What you're listening for when you speak to the seller, what they emphasize, what they minimize, and what they skip entirely. People reveal the truth in what they don't say as much as what they do say. Question 3. What are the exact terms of the current lease, including expiration date, renewal options, assignment clause, rent escalation schedule, and personal guarantee requirements? I'm going to dedicate a full video on this because it's major. This topic alone could save you from a deal that looks profitable on paper and destroys you in reality. But for now, understand this. A laundromat, a car wash, a retail service business, the entire value of the business can evaporate if the lease doesn't survive the sale. Assignment clauses determine whether the landlord has to approve you as the new tenant. Some leases require landlord consent for any transfer of ownership. Some landlords will use that moment to renegotiate a dramatically higher rent rate or refuse to assign it entirely. When you ask the question and the broker says the lease has several years remaining, that is a non-answer. You need to actually see the lease document and have it reviewed by someone who knows what to look for before you even make an offer. Now, I want you to understand that before you make an offer. The question that creates the most discomfort is there a personal guarantee on this lease? And will that guarantee transfer to me at closing? Most brokers absolutely will not volunteer this. Most first-time buyers don't even ask it. A personal guarantee on a commercial lease means your personal assets are on the line if the business fails to make rent. Let me tell you, that's not a small detail. Question 4, what's the age and current service history of the primary revenue generating equipment? And what is the estimated replacement cost if it fails within the first 2 years? For a laundromat, the machines are the business. For a car wash, the wash equipment is the business. For a service business, it may be vehicles or specialized tools. The broker listing will describe the equipment as in good working condition or well maintained. Let me tell you, that's not a warranty, that's a description. What you actually need is a list of every major piece of equipment, its age, the date of its last professional service, and the current replacement cost if it fails. Then you independently calculate, if the worst case scenario happens in 1 year, what does it cost me? And does this deal still make financial sense at the current price? Here's the number that will shock most buyers. Laundromat washers and dryers typically last 10 to 14 years with proper maintenance. Okay? A full equipment replacement for a mid-sized laundromat can run anywhere between $80,000 to $100,000. If the broker listing never mentions equipment age and you never ask, you could be 6 months into ownership before you discover you have bought a business that's one broken machine away from a capital crisis. Question 5, can you show me the monthly revenue for the past 36 months? Not annual totals, monthly figures. This is the question that reveals things annual summaries hide. Annual revenue figures can look stable while their business is quietly deteriorating. A business that did $400,000 last year might have done $150,000 in the first 6 months and $250,000 in the second 6 months, meaning it's recovering. Or it might have done $250,000 in the first 6 months and $150,000 in the second, meaning it may be declining. Same annual number, two completely different realities. Monthly figures also reveal seasonality. All right, a laundromat near a university might have massive revenue swings during the academic year compared to summer. A car wash in a climate-affected region may have 3 dead months every year. These patterns don't appear in annual totals, but they absolutely affect what the business is worth and what your cash flow looks like month to month after you close. When a broker is slow to produce monthly figures, ask you why you need that level of detail, or provides quarterly summaries instead, slow down. The detail you're asking for is completely reasonable. Resistance to providing it is a flag, and it's not a green one. Now, I put together a business buyer's red flag scorecard, and it's a scorecard that will give you insights on whether you need more due diligence, whether that area of their business is okay, or maybe you need to consider not even making an offer. The link is in the description below. It is free. Download it, print it, and carry it with you at every conversation you have when you're talking about buying a business. Now, if you have a deal and you want to talk to me about it, Join my free school community, the Firewatch Business Lab. You can talk to me there for sure, and it's free. Here's the practical framework for using these 5 questions. You don't ask them all 5 in one aggressive conversation. You work them in naturally, some in your first broker call, some after you've seen the listing documents, some when you speak to the seller directly. What you're watching for across all 5 is consistency. Consistent answers from the broker, the seller, and the documents are a good sign. Inconsistency, when the broker says one thing, the seller says another, and the tax return says a third, that is your signal to slow down. The best business deals survive scrutiny. The bad ones reveal themselves when you ask the right questions. Guess what? These are the right questions. Next video in this series, I'm going to walk you through the lease clause that can legally end your deal after you've already closed, and how to catch it before it costs you everything. You do not want to skip that one. It's not about finding a deal. It's about avoiding a bad one.